I'm from 2BSHCD and I play Julius Caesar in the play Julius Caesar.
Hello everyone, I am Rafael Losorio from second year Applied Math. And in this 10-minute play, I am Mark Anthony.
Hi, I'm Emilio Jugo. I'm from second year Paul Epo and I played Brutus in Julius Caesar.
I'm Zina Ursula A. Bondoc, second year BSHCD, playing as Cassius from the play Julius Caesar.
Hi, I'm Teresa Joy from second year AB and DM, and my characters in the play Julius Caesar are Decius, Lucilius, Cato, Strato, and Citizen.
Hi, I'm Chloe Navales, and I'm from second year Paul Epo, and I play Soothsayer, Octavius, Pendaros, and Citizen.
Hi, I'm Nika Aquino, second year IMC, and I play Casca and Titinius in Julius Caesar.
I'm Miguel Robles, currently a second year Poleco student. I play as Sina and Misara in the play of Julius Caesar. I was supposed to be only a production crew member, but I was given a role, so I'm happy with it.
My name is Samantha Chan, and I'm in second year Paul Epo, and I'm the head for the props team in Julius Caesar.
Hi, my name is Karina Reyes, second year Master of Science in Management, and I'm the stage manager for the 10-minute Julius Caesar play.
Hi, I'm Annika Franco, second year Paul Epo, and I'm the director for 10-minute Julius Caesar.
Yeah, when I heard the chess theme, I was like, that's it. That makes so much sense because a lot of the motivations that came for killing Caesar was to just take him out of the chessboard, which was the Roman Empire. So they wanted him out, and I felt like using chess symbolized the strategic element, so to speak, of how all the conspirators worked together really well, and really it was really well thought of, much like a chess game.
Okay, so we have a chess team going on here wherein we have this chessboard and we're all pieces in this entire game. Well, we don't have a king really, but that's because we're searching for a new king. We're fighting for it. Who's gonna be who's gonna be what. And the reason for this is because each one of us is like an entire player being played in the game. Like, let's say Brutus, he was being played by Cassius, was being played by all of them. And us, Mark Anthony, who were on this other team trying to get onto that other team. And that's pretty much how our team goes.
There were plenty of similarities of how a chess game is played and how the story of Julius Caesar goes. One of the things I noticed was that how, like, the character of Cassius and some of the people, Casca and the other one I can't remember. They were all planning. They were strategizing about how they can get Brutus's favor and how they can entice him to work for them, and how he can lead them to start a revolution or whatever. That's how basically a chess game is. It's like you plan on which chess piece you plan to move, and then where you put him. So I saw those similarities and I was really amazed by how Marina and Chloe thought of it.
What we want to do is like put down Julius Caesar, and of course every chess piece in the game has to do that to defeat the king. And in the end, even though the king was defeated, we all like had this losing moment, and it's like I said, a chess game.
Just like in Julius Caesar, the play itself, there's a lot of planning involved and calculated moves, and so the chess theme reflects this kind of concept.
It's really relative to the play, since we thought about Caesar being the king. He's the king. Some of the characters, they were like the lower ranking chess pieces, especially they have small parts, but they also make big impacts on the play.
At first I was like, oh, chess. Like, okay, chess. And then, yeah,
because I didn't understand the story yet. I really didn't get, oh yeah, chess. But it was during the practice that, oh yeah, chess. Chess!
First, I was really confused, like, you know, chess, and then our theme's chess, and then from what I read on the script, it's really mayhem. Like, you know, you die, I die with you, and then he's gonna die with me because domino. Dapat like domino na lang tayo eh. Anyway. Yeah, they're black and white anyway. So we went with the theme of chess because, you know, how organized chess is. And we wanted to show that there was the plot was really organized to the point that you might not think of it as something that could possibly happen in real life. And other than the fact that we were really centralized on the fact that there's a king, something, you know, a hierarchy going on with the play. So I really like the idea talaga. Especially during the play day na, it really went out really well.
Our theme, yung chess, is really fitting for our play. Like, makikita mo talaga yung relevance niya, katulad nung si Julius Caesar, siya yung king, tapos, you know...
When we did a first reading of the script, and we started like learning more about the story based on the words in the script, like the idea that came to mind was like, so Brutus was basically a pawn, and then the word pawn just equal to chess. And I was like, hey, let's do a chess theme, and it's gonna look really cool. And this was especially after we watched the Shoestring Shakespeare. And when you think about the story, yeah, everyone was used in a certain way. So that's why I felt like the chess theme was pretty fitting for the story.
First, I pictured it in a arena type of stage. Until I realized that, until we discussed with Sir that it wasn't going to be an arena but a regular theater. And I had issues on the blockings, which was very hard because in a chess team, blockings is the most important. You have to know where to put a certain character to show if this is her role, if she's the black one or the white one in terms of the chess team. And each role, each movement, each position is important and will have an impact in the play. That was one of the most challenging stuff for me to do, especially in a chess team, but we've overcome it and I think it was very successful. Chess team to the story. So you have Julius Caesar, and we decided that Julius Caesar was going to be the White King. White because he was going to be moving first. He was the first character, well, not really introduced first, but one of the main character, the Julius Caesar was entitled to play. You'd want him to be in front. Initially, Soothsayer was going to be the one seated in front, ringing the bells. But then, after discussing with Sir, I realized that we could do more with the positioning of Julius Caesar in front. Because you can see from in front that the way he was seated, the way she was seated, from the audience perspective, you'd see that people already saw Julius Caesar as king. And her being in front meant that a lot of characters could do a lot of stuff behind her back, which was one of the highlights. And second of all, you'd see that the elevation of Julius Caesar from sitting down to standing up was one of the highlights in the play, because you see the elevation of status and power even after Julius Caesar's death.
What I experienced firsthand is being new in this whole industry is it's really about team effort. Like the first thing I did was I got my script and I started researching because I had no idea what this meant, what that meant, my character was. So I think it really starts with good research, and then you try to not only just of your own character but of other characters as well to get a good picture of what the play's about, and then you react to that. So what I got from Julius Caesar was he was a jerk, he was egotistic, big-headed, and I tried to channel that, my inner darkness. What? Yeah, and I really enjoyed the process as the days go by.
Because everyone was so supportive. The director was really, Annika was really open to my suggestions, and then I just really tried to absorb whatever it was that she and Marina, our stage manager, was trying to tell me. Like, this is where I really learned the importance of things like blocking and doing the right tableau, things like that. When it came to the actual day of performing, I was really nervous. I was shaking all over, but you don't feel the 10 minutes when you're actually there. It just passes by like water. It's like 3 minutes and then it's like, what, we're over? So during the second run, I tried to be more propulsive and use as much expression as I can in everything that I did so that the 10 minutes would feel really expanded.
It's quite difficult getting into character first because I am not an expressive man. I am not like Mark Anthony who's like, oh, Caesar. When I see my friend die, I would first look, oh my god, how did he die? But he just went out and screamed, oh Caesar, and then begged for his own death. It was hard adjusting to it, but when you look at it, it's actually pretty fun.
One of the struggles I faced was trying to capture Brutus's character. One of the main reasons was that since, as we all know, Shakespeare's language is very tough, I found it very hard to relate to it at first. So later on, with the help of our director Annika and especially Marina, they pushed me to really understand Brutus as a character. Later on, I did my research on how previous portrayals of Brutus in film adaptations were like. First of all, I heard the voice of what's his name, Orson Welles in a radio play. I really wanted to copy his voice, deep, manly voice, as much as possible, just so that I can capture how Brutus is as a leader, as someone who can lead his people to victory, to progress, and to make Rome a better country. So he was probably my main inspiration, since I really like Orson Welles.
Well, my experience so far, my progress actually, is that from the beginning I was kind of like scared, like acting out loud, and yes, I have a soft voice. But then as the more we practice, I especially, I got to know myself more, control myself, and I got to portray my character really well. I kind of portrayed Cassius pretty well because some of his attitudes I can do well. For example, keeping a very straight face and not looking very villainy.
The production was very organized, was systematic. We were able to clear out things that were not clear, and it was a good way of building up a thing. Okay, what I learned in the 10-minute Shakespeare play is that patience is very important. You cannot immediately understand a line by simply reading it, but actually reorganizing the sentences and thinking deeply about a certain word or a certain phrase. It requires that whole process to actually understand a Shakespeare play.
I think it was really systematized. Firstly, we read the lines and then we tried to memorize it before thinking about how to act on it. Our director and the stage manager helped us really in the blocking and the acting.
Well, at first when I heard about this play, I was really scared because it's Shakespeare. So, and it was very hard for me to understand the story. I wasn't really familiar with the story at first. So during practice, I was just saying lines, but I didn't know what I was saying. So it was hard for me to execute or to put actions with it because I didn't understand things before. But throughout the rehearsals, we were everyone was very helpful, and I began to understand why this happened, why I said this, and why I'm here, why I'm there. So it was nice.
I had to really grasp every single idea that will come out of the script to, actually think of why we chose the theme of chess, and at the same time turn that into a poster. But we just came with what symbolizes chess and what symbolizes Julius Caesar the most, and just crammed that into one poster. Yeah, it did. Anyway, the following day's acting time. I don't act, nor am I comfortable on stage, especially around a lot of people. So it was nerve-wracking to know that you're gonna play. Like, what? Okay, I wanted to be proud anyway. So they gave me a script. 2 lines per character. You might not think of it as much, but I'm on stage all day. I was on stage as much as all the other characters were. So it was really nerve-wracking. Behind the scenes of the magical red mist.
Everyone wants to know that.
The prototype A. We tried it out on ourselves, threw it in the air, got into our eyes, irritated it so much, one guy cried. Prototype B did the same thing, made me cry. I was at home that time. Prototype C, that was like 2 weeks before na. It actually came out really well. It started to form the mist that we wanted. So like, I came up with this, and she's like, why is it pink? Because there was no red dye. During the play day naman, it came out, when you get blood and spray in there, it will turn like pink, it will turn like red, it will turn pink, it won't be, dark red anyway. We're going with mist, so pink is fine. That's my...
The production process, it's really fun. Okay, bagay na bagay yung board sa play kasi the actors are gonna walk on it, okay? Makikita ng audience. So,
blocking was the problem, was the biggest problem, because at first we were doing the exits and entrances problem, and but we managed to overcome it after talking to Sir, because he gave a really good point that exits and entrances are there to change scene, but they're also for a shift in emphasis in the story. So we played on that, and we were able to overcome that challenge. That was our biggest challenge. But aside from that, it was a steady progress. Like every meeting, there was at least a bit of progress in terms of acting, in terms of blocking, in terms of even the set design, and everyone, it was a steady improvement up until the end, and that was really great. So I'm really happy with the way our production went from start to finish.
Because the script was condensed in 10 minutes already set, I think it was a breeze trying to understand it, and you really get interested the way the characters develop and how you imagine the stage to happen, the play to happen, and that's a challenge, but a challenge conquered.